Coming up this week on Transworld Sport, we tell the remarkable story of former Austrian skiing champion Eric Schinegger.
We're with British golfer Tommy Fleetwood as he finally gets back to winning ways.
We're in Florida to meet the world's #1 ranked junior tennis player.
And we go behind the scenes of England's Northeast football factory.
If you look at photos of me from various stages of my life, you do notice that I had a more robust body than the other girls. But in my head, I was a girl. I felt like a girl. I'd spent my first 18 years feeling that way. I certainly didn't think that there was a man laying dormant inside me. I couldn't talk about this subject to anyone. I was alone. And that's why I took refuge in sport. The most important thing to me was to carry on skiing.
This is Eric Schinegger, a husband, father, and successful businessman. Yet for the first 19 years of his life, Schinegger believed that he was a girl. Born on the 19th of June 1948, Erika, as he was then known, was the third of 4 children. Growing up, he'd always felt different. He'd much prefer to ride a tractor around on the family farm than play with the dolls his mother had bought for him. He didn't fit the stereotype of how a little girl should behave.
I was so convinced that I was a girl. Because what ultimately shapes a person is their upbringing and their environment. I was told from my birth that I was Erika. My time at school and through adolescence was quite bad. I wasn't one thing or another. To the girls, I was too active, too much of a tomboy. To the boys, I was a girl, and they didn't want to hang around with me. For me, it wasn't a fun time.
When Erika hit adolescence, she didn't develop like her peers. She'd never had a menstrual cycle, and she believed that she was a lesbian because of her stronger feelings towards girls rather than boys. Feeling segregated from other children her age, Erika threw herself into skiing, achieving considerable success. In 1966, the then 18-year-old reached the pinnacle of her sport. In Portillo, Chile, she saw off strong competition from France's decorated skier Marielle Goitschel to become the women's downhill world champion. Erika Schinegger was subsequently revered back home in Austria and tipped to win 3 gold medals at the 1968 Grenoble Winter Olympics.
For me, it was the ultimate, the best thing. In skiing, I was #1 in slalom, #1 in downhill skiing, #1 in giant slalom, #1 in everything. In training, I was up to 5 seconds faster than anyone else. I was very successful in the sport. It was through skiing that I felt love. I was elevated, and I really did benefit from that.
Buoyed by her performance at the Worlds, Erika was confident of winning titles at the 1968 Winter Olympics. The International Olympic Committee had introduced pre-competition drug and gender testing for those games, so Erika had to undergo a series of medical checks. It was following these tests that she discovered that, contrary to what she'd been led to believe for 19 years, she was not female. Schinegger was, in fact, chromosomally a man, but had been wrongly identified at birth as a girl due to the absence of any external male organs.
At that moment in time, I was heading towards the biggest goal in my career. And then they said to me, "Erika, I'm afraid you cannot participate." It felt like the end of the world for me. What am I then? I said. If I'm not a girl, what am I? They told me that I had male chromosomes. They said that everything about me was predominantly male. The only difference with me was that my genitals were inside my body, in my stomach. At that point in my life, it was very difficult to hear that. It was a really upsetting subject, and it's still very bad to this day. It's completely taboo. Man to woman, woman to man. People think, what is this? Nobody can comprehend it.
From there, the then 19-year-old was given two options. She could undergo a sex change operation, take hormones throughout her life, and carry on living as a woman, or she could have gender rectification surgery to externalize her male organs and start a new life as a man. She decided on the latter. Erica became Eric.
I was in the clinic for 6 months, and during that time, I had to try and get my head around it. I had to learn how to behave once I was back in the outside world. But it was extremely tough. Many people say that if someone dies, it initially takes over your life. But after talking about it for a fortnight, you move on. In the clinic, I was told people will talk about my gender for 3 weeks and then never mention it again. Well, it's been over 50 years for me now, and many people still talk about my life.
After coming out of hospital in 1967, Eric was initially met with some animosity. His story was taboo. Isolated, he started training again with a view to getting back into skiing. However, despite outperforming several of Austria's best male skiers, Eric was omitted from the national team, allegedly due to media unrest. He retired, aged just 22.
The Austrian Ski Association didn't want me anymore, and these results are proof. First, Eric Schinegger. Fifth, Franz Klammer. He was the world and Olympic champion. That is why they didn't continue to support me as a man, because they were aware that I could still make headlines, and they were worried about their reputation. For them, I was unwanted news. It was far easier if I was out of the way. So they basically said, right, Schinegger can no longer compete. That was heartbreaking for me, because I loved the sport so much. Skiing was my life, and I knew I definitely had what it took to become a world champion as a man, as Eric Schinegger.
Ostracized from the national squad, Eric initially tried to establish his identity in other ways, indulging in several entrenched stereotypes of manhood.
In these two photos, I started to feel comfortable in myself. I was dressed in a suit. I was a man. I really grew in confidence. Before, I used to only feel comfortable wearing sports gear. In casual clothes, I'd feel somehow less of a person. I didn't have the figure that many of my peers had. I wasn't anything like them. I wasn't beautiful. I didn't have breasts. But here, that was the first time that I felt secure as myself, and I behaved differently than I had before. Now this is my daughter, the best thing I have created in this world. I conceived a daughter naturally as Eric Schinegger. And that, for me, was just the greatest thing. I felt validated as a real man. I was a proper man. And from that moment onwards, nothing could hurt me. If people were saying, is that actually a man? I didn't care. I knew I was a man. That is my daughter. My daughter. And this is what I needed to begin with, a Porsche. You see, it was a status symbol to show that I was a man. I had many insecurities, but with the Porsche, it made me feel strong. It was like having crutches to get about with in my new life as Eric. That was my Porsche, the best crutches ever.
Although Eric's car served as his metaphorical crutches at first, he was determined to get ski poles back in his hands. Growing up, Skiing had been his outlet from the scathing comments of other children and the sense of isolation he often felt. As a man, Eric was hoping the sport would fulfill a similar purpose. In 1975, he opened up the Eric Schinegger Ski School in Carinthia, southern Austria. The school now employs 50 coaches and provides skiing lessons for children aged 3 to 10 years old. Eric manages the whole facility, but he's still keen to get on the slopes to impart his knowledge to the 3,000+ children that come through each year.
I want to pass on my joy for the sport to the children I teach, so that they adopt my love for skiing themselves. I've already helped quite a few children over the years. Some have even gone on to win medals at the Olympic Games and the World Championship. Those cases are the exceptions, though. We want to reach the masses and get lots of children enjoying the sport. That's the nicest part for me.
Eric is approaching his 70th birthday, but his love for skiing and his passion to carry on working at his ski school is unwavering. To some, Eric's life story is still taboo and a topic of idle gossip. To others, it's a source of inspiration and something that should be spoken about candidly. Eric himself no longer feels the need to explain who he is or who he was. Instead of investing his time in defining himself, he's putting his energy into the next generation in the hope that they will fulfill the dreams taken from him.
I'm enjoying my life to the full, and I have to say, that's because of the children. You've seen it for yourself. Their little eyes shining on the slopes. Children are not prejudging either. Children can be inspired, regardless of your background. And that's what I'm trying to do. Also, when you get older, you begin to carry something childlike within your own heart. A longing for youth, I guess. If you embrace it, you will not age. You'll stay young and agile. And that's what I've learned through the sport and through my school. And that's why I'm so grateful to skiing. Through it, I've been able to live my life with a little perseverance. I can now go out into the world and say, without any shame at all, look, this is me. I'm not afraid.
And now it's time to test your knowledge with our sporting question. This week, the Ski Jumping World Championships get underway in Finland. Amongst the competitors on show at the event will be Poland's Kamil Stoch, who won gold on the large hill at the 2013 World Championships.
I have set myself many goals in my career that I would like to achieve. And to realise all my dreams, I know that I have to train hard, work on my skills, and raise the level of my performances. That's what I'm always working towards. At every competition, I try to improve my jumps and just get better. And I always aim to win.
So far in his career, the 29-year-old has won 3 medals at the World Championships, and he's also won 2 Olympic golds. He triumphed on both the individual normal and long hill at the 2014 Sochi Olympics. At the last World Championships, Stoch only managed 1 bronze medal, and he'll be determined to improve on that showing at the forthcoming event. And it's the Ski Jumping World Championships which provide us with the subject for our question. We'd like to know who has won the most gold medals in the history of the World Championships. We'll bring you the answer later in the show.
England's Tommy Fleetwood picked up his second win on golf's European Tour at the Abu Dhabi HSBC Championship last month. The 26-year-old's emphatic win followed Graham Storm's dramatic playoff victory in South Africa, making it a successful start to 2017 for the Englishman. We caught up with Fleetwood to discuss whether that early achievement has altered his goals for the season and how that second Tour win feels.
It's the best feeling, basically. just been chatting to it with Stormy actually. He won the week before, and we were just saying how good it feels, and it was a long time, and I thought my second win would come sooner, but it didn't, and it took a lot of hard work, and just feels great once you've done it. It's just put me closer to what the goals were at the start of the year. I mean, one of the goals was to win, so we got that one done quickly, but I'd like to win again now. We'll keep going with that, but it just puts me closer to the goals, like world ranking, top 50, order of merit positions, all them things that you look at the start of the year where you want to sort of strive to achieve. It's just put me that bit closer, so but you still got to kick on and keep it going.
Tommy attributes his early success in 2017 to hard work with coach Alan Thompson and the re-employment of his old caddy Ian Finnis, who he's quick to praise.
He's been one of my best mates for about 15 years. So we've known each other a long time, and he caddied for me as an amateur a bit, and when I first turned pro. We always said that if it comes up again, then we'll go for it and we'll give it a go. And it was July this year. I remember walking into the pro shop and seeing him. I said, "Do you fancy coming out for a few weeks?" And he said, "Let me think about it." And then, so it's been a good journey really, because he come on the bag when I was really I was really struggling with my game. And we sort of went from the bottom, missing cuts, to working our way up and getting better and better, and it was great to actually cap it off with a win.
The win propelled Fleetwood from 101st in the world to the brink of making the top 50, a feat which looked unlikely after his level par front 9 on the final day in Abu Dhabi.
That front 9, it was really hard to score, and my two playing partners were going like a rocket. They were both 4 under through 7 or 8, and I just had to kind of hang in there, and it was so hard to make birdies early on, and I was level par through 9, and I felt all right, like I played all right, but I was still way back, and then things just sort of kicked into gear on the back 9.
Kick into gear they certainly did, with the turning point of Tommy's afternoon coming on the 10th hole, where he chipped in for an outstanding eagle.
10 was big. It was it was a 3-shot swing for me and Martin. Martin made bogey and I made eagle, and Kiradech made par, but it got things going, and then but again, after that, it had been so easy to get overexcited and sort of give it away on 11 and 12. You can easily, a couple of bad shots, being sort of overexcited and your heart rate's going, and I played 11 great and made birdie. So those 10 and 11 were massive, because that put me joint leader then, and I felt like I was hitting it good enough to sort of hold on or make a couple more birdies and make it hard to beat.
The sublime approach on the 16th helped Fleetwood move ahead of playing partner Kiradech Abibanrad for the first time, and the Englishman was still in the driving seat come 18, despite a challenging second shot.
265 I think I had to the front, and I had a decent lie, so we just took 3 of that and hit it. I mean, if it had gone wrong, then it might not have looked like a great idea, but once I looked up and I saw it heading towards the green, I got pretty excited then, because that's all I wanted to see really. Once it was going online, I thought, yeah, that's good that. But still had to hit 2 good putts really. The first one went a lot further past than I'd have liked it. I'd much rather had a tap in than a 4.5 footer smelly one downhill.
So, not a bad start to 2017 for Tommy, who's played his way into contention for a start at the Masters. If he can break into the top 50, he'll be teeing it up at Augusta come April.
Back in 2008, Transworld Sport was fortunate enough to spend time with Serbian tennis ace Novak Djokovic when he was just 21 years of age. Djokovic has gone on to win 12 Grand Slam singles titles, and he became the first Serbian to reach the ATP World #1 ranking. Looking to follow in Novak's footsteps is the current junior world #1. And to find out more about him, we headed to the IMG Academy in the American state of Florida. Introducing Miomir Kekmanovic, set to become the next Serbian tennis star. Born in Belgrade, the 17-year-old took up the sport age 6 and moved to the academy in 2013.
Boy, line it up, line it up. He's just got top 100 skills. I think forehand, backhand, you know, his serve is getting there, so his skill set, you know, he has some really, really top level skill sets that are improving. He needs to keep improving those. But, you know, he's got a huge forehand, great backhand with disguise, ability to come to the net, ability to have a great serve and disguise the serve, so second serve. So he's developing all those skills, and you know, I think it'll serve him well as a pro.
At the end of the 2015 season, Mir, or Misha as he likes to be known, won the prestigious Orange Bowl tournament. He became the first IMG Academy player to win the title since Jim Courier in 1987. And last September, the teenager finished runner-up in the boys' singles final at the US Open.
It's awesome experience, and just to be at the same place as everybody else, to interact with all the pros, and just to see how they play, how they behave around it. And of course to make the final and then to play on one of the bigger courts with challenges, of course. That was the great experience, and I think that it helped me a little to get a little bit more confidence, and then just to play better tennis after.
Following his US Open exploits, Misha won the top-tier Abierto Juvenil title in Mexico. Then, on home turf at the IMG Academy, he played in the historic Eddie Herr event. Misha only dropped one set on his way to becoming champion. Legendary tennis coach and founder of the Academy, Nick Bollettieri, was on hand to give out the prizes.
What's important is that Mir put everything on the line. And that's when you judge if you have somebody special. Can they execute under pressure? And he did it extremely well. You know, there are a lot of athletes, a lot of people in business and in life. They can do certain things, but can they do it at the right time? And Mir seems to have that quality to do it at the right time.
His victory in the Eddie Herr tournament saw Misha secure the #1 junior world ranking. This left him as the top seed and the man to beat when he travelled to Miami to defend his Orange Bowl title. In the final, he faced China's Yibing Wu, and Misha took the first set 6-3. The young Serb was even more impressive in the second set, winning 6-1.
I was a little bit nervous at the beginning. There was very windy, so it was a lot tougher conditions. But I think I had an advantage there, since here it's always windy. So I got used to it. But I think after a couple of games, I just started playing my game. I was just more aggressive, and I think it was easier a lot after that.
I called it, I knew you were going to
Misha became the first male to win back-to-back Orange Bowl titles since Billy Martin in 1974.
Thanks.
Not too many people can do that. Remember, most people, when they do or perform one time, the question is, can they do it again? And he did that. And by the way, he had a lot of pressure on his shoulders. To be #1 in the world, he had to win.
When he's not on the tennis court, Misha likes to relax by playing golf with his friends who are also budding tennis professionals at the Academy.
Please tell me that was on.
For these juniors, one of the benefits of training at the Academy is the access to hit with the professional tennis players. Japan's world #5, Kei Nishikori, is a regular on the practice courts. Director of the Academy's tennis program is Rowan Goetzke.
What's really good is that if Kei comes in, he asks, hey, can I hit with Misha? And I think that's already a great sign that when the pros, when they come on campus, they're like, okay, is Misha around? Because they know he brings a real deal for them.
You know, Max Murney, who just saw him in the locker room, said, hey, you know, when are you going to stop playing those Mickey Mouse tournaments and come out on the pro tour? So the guys are waiting for him on the tour, and then he'll have to earn it. But he's, I think, ready to take on that ranking board next.
Following his Orange Bowl title, Misha decided it was time to leave the junior tour behind and step up to the senior circuit. This will involve playing at the lower tier futures events before progressing to the challenger level. His aim for 2017 is to finish the year ranked inside the ATP's top 300, but those at the academy are optimistic of him going even higher.
First of all, he wants to break in the top 100. Can he go top 50? I can see that. And then after that, it's open to see how hard he's going to work. Where does his game keep improving, because there's young guys coming up, but he's put himself in a great position to be going in that direction.
I say that he has the potential to be a top-ranked professional. Now, to be number 1 or 2, certain things have to work out right, but he has the ability to certainly make a very good living. And if he stays healthy and physically fit, he can be an outstanding professional.
Since we filmed with Mir, he entered his first futures tournament as a senior. He came through 4 rounds of qualifying and went all the way to claim the title, dropping just 1 set across the 9 matches. This helped boost his ranking over 200 places as he closes in on the top 600. Although the 17-year-old is optimistic about his career, he's making the most of each moment.
It means a lot because it's giving me something a lot of people don't have, the opportunity to travel the world, meet some amazing people, play tennis almost everywhere with some pros, with the top guys, with pretty much everybody. So I think I'm really lucky to have this, and I really hope that I can keep on doing it.
In Novak Djokovic, Serbia has one of the all-time tennis greats. Will fellow Serb Miomir Kekmanovic become a big star of the sport too?
Our top 5 looks at some more tennis players to have appeared on our show as teenagers. First up is Tommy Haas. It was 1991 when we travelled to Germany to meet up with him when he was 13. Back then, he was being hailed as the next Boris Becker. Haas, who's currently in his final season as a pro, has amassed over $13 million in prize money, but hasn't managed to win a major.
In 2006, we were in Australia to profile Bernard Tomic. The 14-year-old was being compared to Leighton Hewitt, and in the years that have followed, he certainly displayed a similar fiery temperament. Tomic just needs to start adding more ATP titles to his name.
12 years ago, we went to France to find out more about a 19-year-old Gaël Monfils. Many were predicting that he would become the first black man to win a major since his compatriot Yannick Noah in 1983. So far, Monfils' best performances at a Grand Slam have been reaching the semis at Roland Garros and the US Open.
In 2003, we journeyed to the Spanish island of Mallorca to meet Rafael Nadal. Rafa was just 16 at the time, but already showing the skills that would make him the greatest clay court player of all time. To date, Rafa has won 14 majors, the same number as Pete Sampras.
And finally, in 2001, Transworld Sport headed to the Swiss city of Basel to meet Roger Federer. He was 19 back then and yet to win any of his record-breaking 18 Grand Slam singles titles. Federer has gone on to top the world rankings for an open-era record of 302 weeks.
Now we continue our Transworld Sport Classic series, in which we look back on some of our most memorable features from down the years. This week, a profile that we first brought to our viewers 8 years ago. It was July 2009 when we travelled to the remote country of Papua New Guinea. PNG is a land of huge cultural, geographical and biological diversity. Thousands of communities are spread across this vast nation, and over 800 different languages are spoken here, accounting for 1/5 of all world languages. PNG's enormously rich and varied animal and plant life means that it's one of only 17 countries to be considered by scientists as a land of mega diversity. Yet, for all the variety that's found here, the 7 million people that live in Papua New Guinea are united by one thing. PNG's motto is unity in diversity, and nowhere is this more apt than in the sporting sphere. Although organised and professional sport may still be in its infancy, we discovered that Papua New Guinea is a sport-mad nation. In the international arena, PNG athletes have enjoyed limited success, but when they do, it becomes a source of huge national pride. Weightlifter Dika Toua remains one of Papua New Guinea's most celebrated athletes, and back in 2009, we were keen to find out more about her.
Every time I come back from my trips or my travel overseas or my international events, when I come back, I see people and I hear people are very proud of me being, putting PNG on the world map. When they see me around in town, they just scream out my name, saying Dika Toua, Dika Toua. That's how I feel, how PNG is proud of me,
When we met up with her in 2009, Dika was 25 years old. She was Oceania's #1 ranked weightlifter in the 53 kilogram division and amongst the top 10 in the world. She competed at the Olympic Games in Sydney, Athens and Beijing, with her best performance coming at the 2004 Games in Greece, where she finished 6th. It was Dika's uncle, Douglas, who was the driving force behind her career.
Dika is a household name now. Everyone in Papua New Guinea knows about Dika, and if you ask anyone about weightlifting, they'll say, oh, it's Dika Toua. So she's an idol now.
Rita Kari was an up-and-coming weightlifter and a training partner of Dika at this time.
Ever since I've seen sports models like Dika, I feel like following her footsteps in the later years ahead of it, to become like her, train more harder, and achieve my dreams in the future.
Hailing from the village of Hanuabada in the heart of Port Moresby, PNG's capital city, Dika was a very sporty child and took up weightlifting at the age of 10.
My auntie, my dad's sister, real sister, was a weightlifter. My grandfather, my mom's dad, was the first Papua New Guinean to play with Europeans as a rugby league player. So then my sisters, my brothers, everybody in the families, we all involved in sports. So sports has become one of our habits.
During her early teens, Dika would spend countless hours in this gym, both before and after school.
I think it's in Dika's nature to be a very good athlete, because at stages when there was no one training, she used to come alone and just do her workouts on her own. And most athletes wouldn't do training on their own. They would hang around, and if there was about 2 or 3 of them, then they'd do their workouts. But with Dika, she was really motivated to train on her own, do her workouts, and then do her other duties in the house.
By the age of 16, Dika's hard work saw her secure a place at the 2000 Sydney Olympics. Those games were the first in which women's weightlifting had been included at the Olympics. The opening event in the programme was the 48 kilogram division, and Dika was the first athlete out onto the stage, thereby assuring her a small piece of sporting history. Dika Toua, the first woman to lift a weight at the Olympic Games.
when I got there, I was so excited because I was young and but didn't know anything about the Olympic Games, and that was my first time to have a feel of what the experience is all about and what the Olympic Games was all about. So yeah, being the first woman on the platform, I was nervous a bit, but then got over it, yeah, and then competed, yeah.
4 years later, in Athens, Dika carried her country's flag at the opening ceremony and came close to a medal with a 6th place finish. She didn't improve on that performance in Beijing, as her preparations for the Olympics were hampered somewhat by injury and giving birth. Following Beijing, Dika took the year off to be with her young son.
I thought that I should spend some time with him, with my partner and my family as well. But at the moment, my main goal is the Commonwealth Games in India. And then after that, I'll see what I can do after that. But I think I can go step by step, not moving, 2 steps ahead. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll think of the 4th Olympics after the Commonwealth Games.
However, Dika didn't compete at the 2010 Commonwealth Games in India. Shortly after we filmed with her, she fell pregnant with her 2nd child. When we met her, we discovered just how close-knit Dika's family was. Back then, she lived with her parents, grandparents, 2 sisters, 2 brothers, and her husband and child.
My family's been my strength in my sporting career and my life, because they've been a great support to me, and they mean a lot to me in terms of living and backing me up in my sporting career. They've been my strength all this time. So without them, I don't think I have had gone this far.
Dika combined her duties as a mother, wife and athlete with a job in the marketing department of one of PNG's leading companies. In Papua New Guinea, the lack of money in sports means that it's common for the country's top sportsmen and women to hold down full-time jobs.
We find it really difficult to maintain our equipment, and it's really hard to get sponsorship and help from business houses, because every time we do a trip, we need about more than 20 grand to send the team away. And we spend money on that, and then they can't give us extra to maintain our gym.
Away from weightlifting and her many other duties, we discovered that a big passion in Dika's life was netball. Every weekend, games were played in her village. Courts were drawn on the road, and the action was virtually non-stop from dawn till dusk. The games were not only fiercely contested encounters, but they also gave the women of the village the chance to socialise. In PNG, society is traditionally male-dominated. In fact, so entrenched is the subjugation of women here that down through the generations they've simply accepted it as a fait accompli.
Part of our tradition has pulled a lot of ladies back, and we've tried to move 1 step ahead of that. Women have seen me as a role model in this country. They've all looked up to me and wanting to be like me, not only to be a weightlifter, they just want to be at the top level or to get, something out of themselves.
At London 2012, Dika competed at her 4th Olympics, where she finished 12th. In 2014, she won gold at the Commonwealth Games, but she didn't compete at the last Olympics in Rio. However, still only 32, this inspirational Papua New Guinean is aiming to keep competing for the foreseeable future.
Weightlifting means a lot to me, even though we go through a lot of pain and suffering and, struggling and dedication, Yeah, weightlifting sort of become my life, yeah. So can't live without it, and I'm thinking of if I then get to retire, I might take up coaching or take up some executive jobs just within weightlifting. Yeah, because I don't want to leave it.
And now it's time for the answer to this week's sporting question. Earlier in the show, we asked you to name the ski jumper who has won the most gold medals at the World Championships. The answer is Thomas Morgenstern with 8. 7 of those golds came in the team events, but he has also won individual gold on the normal hill in 2011. In a glittering career, the Austrian also won 4 Olympic medals, including gold on the large hill at the 2006 Games in Italy. In 2014, Morgenstern announced his retirement from competitive jumping. Since then, he's become an ambassador for the sports charity Laureus and is now competing as a pilot in helicopter racing events.
If you want to find a top-quality young footballer in England, you might look to the youth academies of Manchester United and Everton, or West Ham, whose alumni include Rio Ferdinand and Frank Lampard, or Southampton, who produced Theo Walcott and Gareth Bale. However, there's another champion of youth football in England, one that doesn't get quite as much attention. This particular football factory in the northeast of the country is not some big club's academy, far from it. Yet despite this, it's grown to be one of the foremost producers of professional footballers in the land.
Steve Boots, Peter Beardsley, Michael Carrick, and Shearer.
These are just a few of the players who once wore the green and yellow of Wallsend Boys Club. It boasts a roll of honour that most professional academies would envy. Wallsend has produced over 65 players that have gone on to play professional football, many in the top flight. President Peter Kirkley has overseen the club's development over the past 40 years.
All of the players that have made anything out of their lives has been the amount of work that they have put in. It's all right us saying, yes, we want you to do this, but if they don't do it, they don't make progress. Alan Shearer was an example. Alan lived the forest away. Alan was first at training and last away, and never missed a training. I have to say that I never thought Alan would ever achieve what he has achieved, and he always reminds me of that.
Wallsend Boys Club was founded in 1904 by the employees and directors of Swan Hunter Shipyard in order to provide recreational activities for the apprentices and young people in the area. Based in North Tyneside, not far from Newcastle United St James's Park, it's been a beacon of youth football excellence since the 1970s. What isn't so well publicised is that it also provides a great environment for kids to play.
I remember a policeman calling in one Friday night, they used to just put that head in the door at the boys' club where we were playing 5-a-side. And he said to me, he says, Pete, he says, do you realise that I've got no trouble on the high street on a Friday and Saturday night? I says, no, I said, I didn't know that. He says, well, you should. He says, you've got them all in here. And that said a lot for the area, didn't it? They knew where the kids were. They were playing 5-a-side football.
Wallsend's original headquarters had to be demolished in 2012 after being damaged by high winds. However, the year before, the club opened its first football centre, a major milestone as for most of its existence, matches and practice sessions had been run on whatever patches of council-owned grass could be found. Yet Wallsend's fame can sometimes be a bit of a burden, because many assume the club's success must mean there's a lot of money involved. But that's simply not the case. Club Chairman Steve Dale and Vice President Sid Sharp.
We did get finance to support a lot of the youth work that we do, outreach work, where we go out into the North Tyneside community just to try and engage with youngsters. Doesn't matter whether they're good, bad or indifferent at football, and we used to bring them back into those premises. Well, since we had to condemn that building, we don't have the facility here to do that type of work, so we're totally self-supporting at the moment.
The club's fortunate in one respect in that we've got a number of sponsors who have been with the club for a number of years and they help to support the team. We don't get any financial assistance from any of the professional clubs for the players that have gone there. The fundraising is done by the managers, by the committee who get involved with it to try and keep the club operating like that. But other than that, we don't get any other funds.
In 1968, Wallsend had one team. Now there are over 400 members and you can take your pick from 27 teams at different age levels, all playing under the watchful eye of Head of Development Ian Riley.
The emphasis on that they come along and enjoy themselves, they have a certain amount of discipline, because without discipline you can't get through anything. But the boys come in here, as I say, 3 to 7. At 6 they'll start playing in organised matches and organised leagues, and that'll progress right through to the 16. And other clubs may take boys at 8-year-old. Sometimes they are released and they come back to us. So obviously we're putting a lot of work in along the line, and some boys don't get picked up till 15, 14, 16. So a club like ourselves, although we're world famous, we still need money to survive, and we do struggle at times. So some financial reward would be accepted gratefully.
The club has had 4 representatives at various FIFA World Cups since 1986. But for those who guard the legacy of this institution, the future is about their larger responsibilities and not just how many of their players sign professional forms.
We've never had bad publicity of our players. They've always carried on what they were taught at the boys' club. And what you're getting now is ex-players bringing their kids back, because they said that the experience that they got at the boys' club, they want their boys and girls to get the same experience. And that says a lot to us. That just to see the little ones' faces this morning, how much they enjoy it. I think that's the important part of what we set out to try and achieve. So let's hope we can keep that going.
The production line may well continue to produce professionals in the future, but that's not what Wallsend Boys Club is about. Football is the world's greatest sport because to play it is to experience joy. That simple reason is why so many people, including the youngsters at Wallsend, love it so much.
Coming soon on the show, we meet 14-year-old French athletics sensation Heather Arnaton.
And we catch up with Austrian Olympic snowboarding champion Ulja Dumowitz. Don't forget you can keep up to date with us on Twitter, Facebook and YouTube.